Welcome to the recorded version of Trellis's 2023 Request for Proposal Applicant Conference. As noted, this is a recorded version with no opportunity to ask questions. Should any applicants have a question, they are invited to email us at Trellis at title3, TITLE, the number 3, at trellisconnects.org, or you're welcome to visit our website for questions that have been asked at other applicant conferences. One other note before we begin today is that Trellis is in process of implementing a grant management software system called Smart Simple. We hope to launch Smart Simple at the time of the due date for the RFP applications. Updates related to templates and submission instructions for the Smart Simple system will be posted on our website, and all applicants are encouraged to visit our website regularly for updated information. At Trellis, our mission is to assist individuals to age well and to help develop the capacity of communities to care for an aging population. We do this by providing services, information, and innovations that help people optimize well-being as they age. At Trellis, we connect people with services and resources through a service called the Senior Linkage Line. We fund community organizations that provide services to older adults through the Older Americans Act. We bring networks together for collaborative action in a variety of ways, such as Act on Alzheimer's and the Metropolitan Caregiver Services Collaborative. And we lead the charge to connect healthcare and social care, mainly through our work with Innovations for Aging and the Juniper program. Today, we're talking about our role at Trellis as the Area Agency on Aging for the 7-county metro region, where we are responsible for administering federal Older Americans Act funding for services that help older adults and caregivers live safely and independently in their community. Our management of the federal Older Americans Act funding, known as Title III, is one of our most important strategies for fulfilling our mission to increase and build capacity of communities. Title III services help older adults in their community by providing funding for services that are needed to age well at home in different communities. We're committed to making the Title III application process accessible to organizations who serve people facing disparities, including those serving communities of color and older adults with low income. We're taking action on our commitment to equity in a couple of ways. We are committed to reducing disparities in access to funding and have made many efforts to make this application process as simple and understandable as possible. Our 23 request for proposals is an open invitation to all nonprofits, for-profits, and government entities that serve older adults in our 7-county service area. And we're taking steps in this process to make funding more accessible and inclusive. We're doing that this year by making funding for every Older Americans Act service available at one time. We hope that it will make it possible for organizations to apply for funding that support a comprehensive set of services to serve older adults to provide for overall well-being. In an effort to make this funding more accessible, we are available to assist applicants in applying for these funds. We're doing that through a variety of ways, including applicant conferences that occur on May 17th and May 23rd, and posting this recorded version on our website for applicants who are unable to make those opportunities. Each week between the date of our release of this funding and when the proposals are due in June, we are opening our staff time up for technical assistance open houses which are available through Zoom, and you can visit with our grant management team to ask questions specific to the application. As mentioned earlier, all applicants are able to email our staff at title3@trellisconnects.org, and all questions received in written form will be answered and posted to our website for all other applicants to review. In fairness to all applicants, questions and responses from this webinar, technical assistance, open houses, and one-on-one consultations will be posted online. We will be sure not to identify the source of the question in our posting. This request for proposal is in regards to federal funding. We have set some minimum award amounts that we'll talk about later on in our presentation, but we wanted to go over some of the basic eligibility requirements for the individuals who will receive Title III services. So for the majority of our funding, the eligibility requirement is age 60 years of age or older. There are some nuances to that for our caregiver population, as caregivers of age 18 or older who happen to be caring for someone 60 years of age or older are eligible to receive Title III caregiver services. A caregiver aged 18 who is caring for a person of any age who's living with dementia or memory loss is eligible to receive caregiver support through Title III. And any older relative caregivers who are 55 or older that are caring for a child under the age of 18 or an adult with a disability are also eligible to receive caregiver support through Title III. In 2023, Trellis awarded $10.7 million in Older Americans Act funding to community organizations for a variety of services that includes home delivered meals, transportation, caregiver support, respite, and a whole lot more. This RFP is open for all Title III funding for services under supportive services, senior nutrition services, evidence-based health promotion, and National Family Caregiver Support Program. Organizations or interested applicants can apply for services in 2023 for an award with Trellis that would begin on January 1st, 2024. Going a little more in depth into what we will fund for this cycle, Title IIIB, as in boy, is labeled supportive services by the federal government. And these are services to address functional limitations, maintain health and independence, and promote access to services that are not easily accessible due to language or cultural barriers. Due to the limited amount of funding, these services have shifted from what Trellis has funded in the past. And for the 2024 award year, Trellis has opened up this funding opportunity for services such as assisted transportation, which is a door-through-door service, chore services, homemaker, which also includes grocery delivery, home modification, legal services, and special access. The Title IIIB award minimum is set at $50,000. What we will fund for senior nutrition services to help reduce hunger and food insecurity, promote socialization of older adults, and promote the health and well-being of older individuals is by funding congregate meals, which is a meal provided in a congregate or group setting. We'll also fund home delivered meals, which is a meal provided at an individual's place of residence. Home delivered meals also include meals that leave a congregate setting to be enjoyed at home. And senior nutrition awards minimums are set at $275,000. Title 3D is our evidence-based health promotion and disease prevention programs. Similar to supportive services, Title 3D allows for a very wide range of programs to be funded, as they have all met the evidence-based criteria set by the Federal Administration for Community Living. However, the Trellis Board of Directors has selected the following programs on this screen for funding for this Title III funding cycle. It includes classes such as Tai Chi Quan, Falls Talk, Powerful Tools for Caregivers, Walk with Ease, and others. And for Title 3D, as in dog, the award minimum is set at $5,000. And finally, letter E is the National Family Caregiver Support Program, which are designed to support caregivers of older adults and older relatives raising children. The services Trellis will fund for this upcoming award cycle include caregiver counseling, support groups, caregiver training, and 4 different types of respite. In addition, Title IIIe funding is allowed for public information services and the delivery of information and assistance to caregivers. The Title IIIe award minimum is set at $50,000. Do you want to unmute yourself?
Okay. Trellis covers the 7-county metro area in Minnesota. Anoka County, Carver, Dakota, Hennepin, Ramsey, Scott, and Washington counties are within our Older Americans Act Title III service area. Applicants are permitted to serve any or all counties in the metro. Applicants outside of the metro may be awarded OAA funding to provide services if it's reasonably convenient to the service recipient. For example, if a provider in Rice County, which borders Dakota County, proposed to serve older adults in Southern Dakota County, they may apply for Trellis Title III service funding. The target population for Older Americans Act funding is intended to serve people age 60 plus, with particular attention to low-income older adults and caregivers, minority older individuals, and the people that care for them, older adults and caregivers with limited English proficiency, older adults at risk for institutional placement. Services should be person-centered, culturally competent, and responsive to the changing needs of the communities in their service area. 3B, legal services, and 3C, senior nutrition services, have additional targeting priorities and are listed in the RFP. Nonprofit and for-profit organizations are eligible to apply for Title III funding. However, Trellis is required to obtain a waiver from the Minnesota Board on Aging prior to funding for-profit organizations. Applicants may apply for any and all services available in the competition. One application and budget are required for each funding category. If you're an organization that's interested in applying for more than 5 services, please let us know and we'll give you another budget template. We encourage applicants to partner with other service providers to make the most impact with Title III funding for a broader target population. The funding period for this award cycle is 3 years long and goes from January 1st, 2024 to December 31st, 2024. Annual renewals during the 3-year cycle are contingent upon performance, funding availability, and term agreements between Trellis and the awarded applicant. Here's the breakdown of the funding that's available in the upcoming competition. As you'll see by the numbers on the screen, we are expecting to see a reduction in funds during the 3-year cycle. On September 30th, 2024, Trellis will no longer be receiving the American Rescue Plan Act funding or ARPA funding. It's set to conclude September 30th, 2024. So that means we will have less money to offer in 2025 and 2026. We will go from 2.3 million to 1.5 million in Title 3B supportive services in that time. The distribution amounts allotted for each service were determined through public comments collected prior to the RFP release. You can see how the breakdown for each of these services is taken out of the budget. Assisted transportation is 27%, chore 16%, homemaker 15%, home modification 2%, legal services 12%, and special access at 28%. So, for instance, assisted transportation will be $633,000 in 2024 and will be reduced to $410,000 in 2024 or 2025 and 2026. Available funding, Title 3C. These are exclusively Older American Acts dollars, so the funding amounts may be increased with state nutrition funds during the award cycle, but this is strictly the OAA funding. For 3C in 2024, we'll have 1.7 million in C1 congregate dining and 6.1 million in C2 home delivered meals. And then you see a reduction for 25 and 26 to 1.7 million for congregate and 4.7 million for home delivered meals.
Sarah, can I chime in just briefly, just to add that the amount available on the slide here is a mixture of Older Americans Act funding, federal NSIP funding, and state nutrition dollars. However, if the state nutrition allocation does change from the state fiscal year, these numbers would be updated appropriately, but this is what we have available at the beginning of 2024. Thank you.
Next slide, Laura. For Title 3D in 2024, there's $245,000, and in 2024, and $156,000 in 25 and 26. For the 3E National Family Caregiver Support Program, 1.2 million in 2024, and not as much of a reduction in 25 and 26 at just a little over $1 million. As Amanda said earlier in the presentation, there are minimum amounts for which you can apply for funding. In 3B, it's $50,000. 3C is $275,000. 3E is $50,000, and 3D is $5,000. Awarded applicants that receive 3B and 3C funding must contribute 15% of non-federal resources as match. Match can be supported through other grants or general funds, as well as in-kind match, which would be like volunteer hours. Title 3D does not have a match requirement, and Title 3E has a 25% match. In the application budget, you'll be asked to list out the sources of your match, and Trellis staff can work with you to determine the allowability of those sources. We acknowledge that Title III funding doesn't cover 100% of what it costs to deliver your programs. Revenue from cost sharing and contributions are important to support and expand programs for older adults and caregivers. The cost share policy on our website has examples of a sliding fee scale for you to reference. If awarded any funds, all awarded applicants will be asked to submit their cost share and contribution policy as required by our funder, Minnesota Board on Aging. And awarded applicants will be asked to agree to follow our cost share and voluntary contribution policy. Regardless of the contribution method, awarded applicants must deliver services regardless of an older adult's ability to contribute to the service. Trellis reimburses on a quarterly or monthly basis. And numbers 1 through 6 are data elements that are required to receive this reimbursement for services provided in the previous quarter. Basically, you submit your report to us, we verify that the data is correct and eligible. We then submit our report to the NBA, they pay us, and then we pay you.
Okay, so for awarded applicants, there are further requirements for awarded applicants to submit to their report person served. Services under Title III are either registered or unregistered services, and examples of registered services include chore services, home delivered meals, or caregiver support groups, just to name a few. With registered services, the awarded applicants give clients a form called a National Aging Program Information System, or NAPIS form. The information from these forms is entered into a state system called PeerPlace, and it is a prerequisite for reimbursement. NAPIS forms require name and date of birth as minimum amounts of information. Older adults who complete a NAPIS form have to agree on the usage of NAPIS data. The data is used by the U.S. Health and Human Services Administration for Community Living, the ACL, and the Minnesota Board on Aging, as well as Trellis to create statistical reports. There are also what is called unregistered services, and these services do not require the use of NAPIS forms nor PeerPlace. Examples of unregistered services are Title IIID, evidence-based programs, and under Title IIIE, public information and assistance services are unregistered, just for some examples. Although NAPIS forms are not required, awarded applicants must still collect demographic information, such as name and date of birth. And date of birth makes sure that the person is eligible based on age. Also required are demographic information like race, gender, income level, county. Here's an example of a NAPIS form. There are different NAPIS forms for different services. This one that you see here is an example of a Title IIIB NAPIS form. As you can see, it asks pretty basic information like name, date of birth, gender, address. It also asks for activities of daily living. This is a prerequisite for Older Americans Act funds, but it also helps identify our target population of people at risk for institutional placement. Here's a list of our funding priorities that will guide our review committee and how they score proposals. The application indicates how each question is connected to the different funding priorities. There is feasibility, so your application clearly shows how money will be used to deliver services and that your organization is capable of managing federal funds. There is community connection, so your application shows that you've learned from the community that you're serving and you will continue to develop programs by engaging older adults in your community. And there is equity. So your application clearly expresses how services or activities address inequities and disparities in BIPOC communities. There's impact. Your application shows the impact your services will have on the lives of older adults and how you will use Title III funds to increase that impact. And finally, there is leadership. So your application shows how program staff and leadership reflect the communities that you serve. Here's an overview of the RFP process timeline. We'll get into more detail in a few slides, but you can see everything from May 8th, which is when the request for proposal is published, through October 30th, where applicants are informed of funding decisions. As Amanda mentioned earlier, there are a few different ways to get assistance. We are holding applicant conferences to help applicants better understand the RFP process, and we will have this presentation posted. We also have virtual open houses this month and next, where you will have a chance to ask your questions in a more one-on-one setting. Those event links are listed on Trellis's website. And you can also submit questions to our email. All questions from the applicant conferences, technical assistance open houses, and email will all be published on our website. We do this to be fair to all applicants because we want everyone to have the same information. We are only posting the question and answer, however, so all identifying information will be removed. June 8th is the deadline to submit the applicant interest form. The forms can be found on Trellis's website. It is optional, but if you would like someone to reach out to you to help answer any questions that you have about this process or help you brainstorm ideas, you can fill out the form and someone will be in touch. The form is also helpful for us to know who and how many organizations will be applying for funding. In this form, we will ask for the name of the organization, a contact person's name and email, the geographic service area, services of interest, how Trellis can support your organization, if you would like a call back, and if you would like to provide feedback on the updated 2023 Title III funding competition process to help Trellis ensure that funding and services are equitable. Here is a checklist of items that we are looking for completed applications. There is the application itself, budgets and persons served information, organization chart, IRS tax exempt letters, indirect cost rate, if you're using a federally approved rate, latest financial audits and financial statements. And there are additional documentation required of Title IIIC applicants that you can see here. And like Amanda had mentioned, we will most likely have a program called Smart Simple ready for applicants to upload their applications. So please look on our website for that information when you're ready to submit your application. We will also accept applications through email. However, we may contact you to walk you through uploading it to Smart Simple. The review committees will make funding and service recommendations to our board of directors in October. Trellis will then notify awarded applicants of the funding levels and services approved to begin in January of 2024. This will be a chance to negotiate budgets, develop policies and documentation required for funding, things such as cost share policy, audits, insurance. Once the budget is negotiated, an agreement will be sent out for signature. Awarded applicants for Titles 3B, D, and E will have a chance to request an advance up to 15% of the award at the beginning of the calendar year. Advances are not available for Title 3C. So if we pull up the website here, I'll give you a little walkthrough. If you go to trellisconnects.org, this is our main website, and there is a tab up here for funding and consulting. You can click on 2023 Older Americans Act Request for Proposals. And this is all the information that you need. So here is the applicant interest form. You can submit a question right here. When you press that, it auto-populates an email to us at title3@trellisconnects.org. Here are the different services, so Title 3B, D, C, and E. And you can view the request for proposal, the applications, and the budget, and little snippets about what the different funding sources are for. You can see our commitment to equity. And here are the links to get assistance. So for the weekly technical assistance open houses, you can see the days and time and just click on the link to get to those open houses. And then here again is our email if you would like to submit a question through email. And we are accepting those through June 16th. And just a reminder, all questions that we receive will be posted on our website. And you can view that by, again, going to this tab up here, funding and consulting, and the third tab down, or third link down is for RFP applicant questions. So we are updating that regularly. Check that out for any questions that you may have. It may have already been answered. And you can see the different information about funding. These drop-down boxes here. And then here again is the application timeline. And we are accepting proposals through June 23rd at 5 p.m. And here's that applicant checklist. So make sure that you have all of these pieces of information before applying. And then this tab down here, or this link down here, is the Title III RFP document library. And it has all of the links that have been referenced throughout the RFP. So there's the cost share and voluntary contribution policy, assurances, insurances, service definitions, everything that you need for the RFPs. And then down here are zip files. So if you're applying for 3B, it just consolidates everything that you would need in that zip file. And now we can go through a budget to look a little bit more in details in the budget. So just for an example, I'm pulling up the Title 3B RFP budget. You can see this first tab down here is the instructions. So you have the general instructions, budget details, which is this tab down here, as well as the person served estimate, this tab down here. If we go to the budget details, everything in yellow are boxes that the applicant must fill out. So you'll put your organization's name in here, and these services have a drop-down box. So this is where you can select which service that this is for. You'll put the amount and a brief explanation for what this amount is for. And then this yellow box here is for the indirect cost rates, whether you're using the de minimis rate or if you have a federally approved rate. And you'll also want to fill out this total units here. And there is the federal unit cost. All of the boxes in gray are locked, so you don't have to worry about doing anything with those, and you're not able to change anything. However, with the federal unit cost rate, this calculates the total proposed award amount divided by the total units. And this is the amount that you want to make sure stays within that suggested unit rate range. And that is listed on the service definition document. And Trellis does not reimburse in a unit cost amount, but to make sure that the amount of units are in line with, Amanda, if you can help me out here.
Yeah, you're doing great. The unit cost is really just a guideline to help Trellis assure that the amount of service proposed is in proportion to the amount of units to be delivered. And it's one way that we can ensure equitable funding for services across our 7-county region. So as Laura said, we will not reimburse by this rate, but it is a guideline that we look at and our reviewers will look at in making these funding decisions.
Thank you. And again, just make sure that rate is within the suggested unit rate range that is listed on the service definition document.
And I think one other question, oh, sorry, Laura, to interrupt. Just one other question we had that I think is worth bringing up at this recorded version is for partnerships with other organizations. So if your organization wants to partner with another organization to, again, serve a broader target population, but only one organization is going to apply for funding, and that organization will then pass through funding to what's called a subrecipient organization. Those contractual relationships should be listed in the contractual line. So if your organization is planning on applying for Title III funding on behalf of and in partnership with another organization, we need to see that contractually funded relationship in row 11, right there in the contractual budget category.
Thank you. Okay, and then the next tab that you have to fill out is the person served estimate. And again, what you fill out are these yellow boxes, and the gray boxes are locked and will be automatically calculated. So we are looking for an estimate of people served based on federal poverty guideline, race, and county. And as you can see here, what you put in budget detail will automatically populate the service right here. And this will do it for each service. And then there is a budget summary that all of this information will be auto-calculated from the budget details page. But this is a good overview of the information that you're inputting in that budget detail. And then you can see these next 3 tabs are examples of a request for proposal budget. So if you have any questions, you can look at the sample budget detail and see if that answers your question. Same with sample person served estimates and a sample budget summary.
That's super helpful, Laura. Thank you. And I think that concludes the applicant conference recorded version. Again, if you have any questions after viewing this applicant conference, we ask that you go to our website to review questions that other interested applicants have already asked and Trellis has answered to see if your question has already been responded to. If not, we encourage you to visit us every week at a technical assistance open house, or we encourage you to email us at title3@trellisconnects.org. Thank you for your time.